more interaction with customers, and except during recruitment process, we will get less chance to interact with all of you. So it's good. And then next 4 days we will be covering more on the Internet of Things. And so I'll cover, my focus will be more on the practical aspects and how, what are the key elements of IoT will be of important for you all as as a educational person and then learning background. And second thing is how it can be applied to the industrial world, right? I mean, because earlier 10 15 years back, there is a lot of gap between what we learned and then the moment we get into the industry and then apply. There was a lot of difference, but last 10 15 years, that the gap has reduced tremendously. And thanks to the all the faculties and and the support environment provided by the all the institutions. So now there's, I mean, the gap is to a minimal, but just to get few areas maybe much more important than the other areas. So I'll cover during my course that few topics which are of important, and then you can immediately apply. So once you get into the the actual industry, when you get into the industry, or I'd like to see some of you maybe can become an entrepreneur as well. So you can all contribute part of Make in India campaign as well. There's a lot of importance and trust, even the from the finance and the support environment is very good for startup as well, startup companies. So I hope a few of you become an entrepreneur soon. So I'll cover a few points where if you are an entrepreneur, so you can focus on. And probably the day 4, I will cover some of the aspects, or how you can whatever the innovation development you do, how it can be taken to the market, and then how it can be monetized, right? First you productize, and then next step monetize, and then you'll be contributing for the economy as well as for the growth of the institutions you create. Yeah. Yeah. I'm sharing my. Yeah. Hope all of you can see my the screen. Yeah.
Yes, sir, it's clear.
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll just today's agenda, right? So just give why the importance of IoT getting now. What are the key things which will benefit all of us in today's scenario? And second thing is, what are the key applications? We were already using it, so just to get few applications which are of importance, and then how it is different from and how it is making. The end of the day, it has to change our life in a betterment. So that is one, and to the society as well. And third is, what are the core aspects of Internet of Things. And then the final thing is basics, which is of what are the architecture, and how it is we can be taken to the next level at the enterprise level. And then I'll divide the session into two halves. So first 45 minutes I will give the more on the market background, and then what are the important aspects. And then the second half I'll focus on the demonstration part of it. So IoT, it would have been better if it is on classroom kind of setup, but I'll try to share what are the hardware components, and then how it can be linked. So which probably you can try on it yourself. And then most of the tools are it's open source and then freely available, and some of them are browser based applications, so which will make life all of us life easier, right? So coming to the why part of Internet of Things. So because the tremendous or the exponential growth of devices, right? So one is triggered by the cost factor, because initially, because even Internet of Things was not, I mean, not new to the industry per se, but for our no, personal use or personal access networks, it is new. Because in industrial automation, what we call it is started somewhere 30, 40 years back itself. We were using all these components, right? Sensors, actuators, controllers, and then, and I think most of them, if you are people with the instrumentation background, so these components all were there. So only thing is, the cost factor and then the form factor, right? Because the controllers typically we can think of even the smallest microcontroller, it is size of maybe half of A4 sheet, right? So that is the size it was. And then the second or the third aspect is the power. And the other main difference between the Internet of Things and the industrial automation is, see, the power supply. And then most of the industrial automation or the controllers were traditionally developed and architected and set up for a permanent setup or the permanent fixtures, right, in a small or a well-defined boundary of an industrial world, right? It could be a smaller industrial site or it could be a factory. So where power and the form factor, it is it is of not very critical. So whereas in the case of Internet of Things, the form factor and then the associated network, everything has to be modified or tuned to meet the lightweight requirements. So that's how the growth has happened. And then today it is almost it is in millions or billions almost devices we are getting connected. So without our knowledge, also maybe some of the devices data we are keep consuming, like weather related data, and then the other the logistics and other even the healthcare related data. So everything it's now more abstracted, and then we keep getting that. So this is good as a from the student's point of view, because you are at the right time, and then utilize this development or what we call the transformation, right? The part of the digital transformation, the first underlying or the foundation is this all this Internet of Things, right? So, all the business today, whether it is directly or indirectly, they all depends on lot of data. And then IoT facilitates in terms of getting the physical world, connecting to the physical world, which was not possible or feasible in the previous decades. Okay. And the second importance or why part of IoT is, so the next the growth of the market. So even companies with oil and gas, which I am part of, so they are very very slow adapter in terms of these Internet of Things or even the any changes to the controller environment. But due to the maturity and then the proven track record of this Internet of Things, now it is widely adopted. And I hope some of you may be joining to the industrial like a large manufacturing or mechanical or fabrication type of industry. So which all now it is enabled with IoT. So you have to have some basic knowledge. Of course you will learn on the job the specific or the very niche areas pertaining to that particular segment of industry. But it is be good to have this when you enter the industry, and then have some basic knowledge, and then how it is at least the overall flow of the Internet of Things, it will be of great use, right? And in terms of the market potential, it is almost it is almost billions of dollars worth of the projects are happening. And even 5-10 years back, most of the industries, they were doing like a proof of concept, right? And then now it is much more in matured state. And then some of the components like protocol and all standardized, and then the hardware components are now more reliable than the previous few years. So applications, coming to the applications, one is healthcare. So we all in currently in the pandemic situation. So one of the first thing we started is in February. So where it is focusing on the contact tracing, because it was very difficult to assess such a large group of people, and then just monitoring them their activities and monitoring the health. So that was one challenge even for the corporate as well. So that's where most of the companies, they all developed mobile or IoT based solution just for tracing the contact, and then how to treat them, and then how to monitor their health aspects. So all which is now it is IoT enabled. So most of the healthcare work, I mean, companies, they provide IoT solution based around that. So you can monitor the heartbeat, and then the saturation level, oxygen saturation level, and other things, and then where and all they're moving. So some of the aspects like machine to machine or the mobile to mobile communication all happens without any further complexity of getting into the nitty-gritty of how it can be developed, and then how it is can be assessed, how it can end of the day help the health department to provide provision the services, right? And then it's all built on and the second aspect is the internal medicine part of that. So apart from our day-to-day life, I think most of us, we use Fitbit, that is purely based on the the internet of things based or sensor based approach. And then even the for the internal medicine, so there are the microchips or the trans receivers are now it is form factor has been reduced to a miniature level, so which can be taken orally, and then it can be done the specialized medical professionals can monitor our health. So this is also due to the evolution or the transformation of the internet of things. And then the third aspect is more on the agriculture aspect, so which is one of the key industry, or it is more unorganized sector, right? So the challenge is it's a kind of it is very unique in terms of it is not a typical corporate industry, so where we manufacture our from the raw material to product in our particular location are bounded by few places. So the challenge with agriculture is unorganized in terms of people, and then the resources, and access to the market, right? So that is was a big challenge. So using IoT now, it is slowly it is getting transformed for a betterment. So starting from arranging finance, and then monitoring the right weather conditions, and then for harvesting and other aspects. And then even see if some of you interested in gardening, so now there are IoT sensors which enables you to monitor the growth of the plant, and then you can apply the fertilizer at right time, and then monitoring the temperature and moisture levels, and then the growth of the plants, and then watering. So the all that can be monitored, and then IoT enabled, and then using your mobile itself, you can do your complete gardening part, right? So that is one of the hobby aspects of IoT. And then the last but least, this is the connected vehicles or autonomous vehicles, but still some more years, few more years away from that, because of the statutory requirements point of view. And then the it is comes under safety critical level 4 and above. So safety integrity level still level 4. So this particular use case, it is still under development, but it will some point, it will in the near future, it will be enabled. So this is one of these are the key applications. And then other one use case which is slightly different, and I'll just play it as just a 2 or 3 minutes video, and then I just
Is the video clear? Are you all able to see? Sorry to interrupt.
Sorry.
Is the video on? I mean, I'm just
Yeah, yeah.
confirming if people are able to see that.
Yeah, just yeah.
No, ma'am.
Yeah, just let me.
Yeah. They're still not able to see that, sir. Okay.
You able to see? No?
Yeah, now it's clear. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Got
Yeah,
it. For audio for that,
Oh,
No.
okay.
we are not able to hear.
Oh, sorry.
I think while sharing, we'll have to
Yeah,
set
I
that
can.
partition. Yes, sir.
Project that uses AI.
Yes.
Hi, I'm here with
Able to hear?
Ann Taylor from our accessibility team. And Ann, you're going to talk to us about how you use AI in your daily life.
Absolutely, Satya. So Seeing AI is an ongoing research project that uses AI for computer vision to enhance the understanding and the perception of the physical environment for the blind and individual with low vision. And this app has been available for free on the iOS App Store for over a year now. And our customers have found it to be a valuable tool for interacting with their physical environment. Isn't that great?
That's awesome. And I know you yourself use it every day. Do you want to show us how you use it?
Sure, absolutely. This app has 9 channels. So each of them offers specialized features, such as identifying product by using barcode scanner. Let me show you.
All right.
I have the Seeing AI set as on the product channel, and I will scan the barcode.
Processing. Microsoft Surface Dial.
That's pretty
Cursor.
cool. So you were just able to switch channels and then change to the product channel and put an object in front of it and it recognized it.
Yes,
That's
indeed.
great.
So I would like to show you the one that I use most is short text channel.
Ah.
So first let me switch to it.
Share. Button. Channel. Person. Prop. Document. Short text. Ann Taylor. Supportability Director. Accessibility. Microsoft Corporation.
That's so
Ann
cool.
Taylor.
You even had the card backwards and it was able to just read it.
Yes, indeed. By the way, it's a typical occurrence for me
sure.
to read business card upside down.
No, I can quite imagine. And can you then even take handwriting and recognize it as well?
Yes, and this is really meaningful to me personally, is because for the first time ever, I can use this app to independently read personal notes that's written to me from my family and my loved one.
Let's give it a try, huh?
Sure.
I mean, this might be a real test of this app because
Yes.
if it can read my handwriting, anything is possible. All right.
All set?
Yes.
Let me go ahead and switch to that channel.
Channel. Currency. Scene preview. Color preview. Handwriting preview.
I will take a photo and figure out what you wrote
Take
here.
picture. Button. Take processing. Accessibility is awesome.
Yes, accessibility
That's-
is awesome.
Yeah, so that is one of the use case, and then similar use case even for the hearing impaired people as well. So one, I think a startup company created a app called Let's Talk. So these are some of the use case. It is non traditional, but it is still makes a lot of this thing importance to the people's life. And coming to the what part of Internet of Things, so the person who coined this term is Kevin Aston. So he was a consultant with PwC, PricewaterhouseCoopers, and then the main the growth of IoT happened because of the large FMCG or the fast-moving consumer goods, like Procter and Gamble. So this particular the use case also, the first use case was developed mainly for that. So because the supply chain aspects, right? Because compared to traditional manufacturing industry, it's located in one particular site, but the supply chain aspects is really challenging because of the vast amount of area they need to cover, and vast amount of it's a thousands or assets they need to be tracking, like starting from mobile assets like trucks and other conveyors and other vehicles, material handling equipment. So that was a big challenge for them. So that's how it came into picture. So these are all typical what we call brick and mortar kind of companies, which had huge warehouses and then cross country transportation. So that were the challenges. And the next aspect is growth of mobile devices. So because earlier it was very few penetration of the mobile devices, and then once it started growing, and then the smartphones came into picture, and then all these aspects played a major role in the growth of Internet of Things. And the main transformation is because of the IoT or the market economic growth, right? The traditional brick and mortar companies, how they moved into e-commerce, and then from e-commerce to the marketplace kind of environment. This all transformed because of Internet of Things. That is one of the founding pillars of this growth. And of course, we use other aspects like the peer-to-peer, and then the Uberization of whole market economy is because of the IoT. And moving on to the other, these are the 4 areas as per the Stanford University engineering department's classification of how we apply Internet of Things. So for our current session, we will be focusing on the first 2 topics, right? The industrial automation, how the Internet of Things helped in terms of standardizing and then transforming their hardware part, as well as the communication, and then the application, and then the cloud transformation all happened because of that. And the second is home area network. It is like smart homes or building automation where IoT is applied. Other personal area networks like our personal access device, and then healthcare kind of healthcare related IoT use cases. And the last is network devices. So all our today's the mobile service provider, they all heavily relied upon the network devices like a Cisco, Huawei, all they all based on the IoT based development. So only changes the earlier it was fully hardware and the configuration all done at on site, particular site, and then connected to the physical machines. But today's it is not so, because most of them are now app based, including Cisco routers, and can be configured app sitting anywhere else in the world as well. So that is the main transformation. So and then the some of the key aspect is from between industrial IoT as well as our traditional Internet of Things is one is on the reliability part, because in industry we can't take a chance, or it has to be 99.99 availability. Even the smallest percentage, it can make a huge difference because of the critical infrastructure involved, and then associated people's life as well. So if some of the our Fitbit or some of the other traditional Internet of Things application doesn't work, or the sensor doesn't work, it will not have that much impact. So that's the reason it's on the reliability aspect. Second thing is on the the safety and then the security part. So security has to be the highest level because of the few incident happen in elsewhere in some of the Gulf countries as well, and then even in United States, some of the hackers, they access the utility network which supplies the critical infrastructure like power, water to the society. So the security aspect is also critical for the industrial Internet of Things, whereas IoT still it is picking up, but it will at some point it will reach the maturity, and then it is comparable to the industrial security related the standards. And in terms of the Internet of Things, the architecture at high level is what we call MGC architecture, right? So embedded system, and then the gateways, and then the cloud environments. Those are even today. So mostly we have the similar architecture. So it is the MGC architecture is proposed by Mark Horowitz. Again, he's part of the Stanford University. So still we follow the three aspects. So the embedded devices, which we use, whatever the smart devices in industry, as well as in the personal, the home area kind of networks. And then the gateways, it is more standardized ways. Now, earlier it was very handful of hardware manufacturers they make. And now it is more commoditized, and then most of the large companies they manufacture. And then the cloud environment, still it is predominantly dominated by 3 or 4 players, like we know Microsoft, Azure, and Amazon, AWS, and then Google Cloud Platform, and then IBM, and a few others. But some of the open source aspects as well. So it is more prevalent in the market. So how the trend that happened, IoT made possible, right? So it was started all with open source or the open platform. So the Cortex is the first the smaller microcontroller which is created. It's called the Cortex M0. So that even today it is developed by ARM. So that is even most of our IoT devices still built on this particular architecture. So now we have latest versions, but it's all started with the Cortex M0, and that laid the foundation for this whole the IoT transformation in the marketplace. And second is once the hardware is ready, because the Cortex M0 was the first one to accommodate the whole aspects of power supply, and then the core trans receiver, what we call transmission and receiving part, and even accommodate few sensors as well. So in the same circuit board. And then the second is the Bluetooth low energy. So it was created by iBeacon, and then first it played a major role in like a machine to machine or the mobile to mobile kind of communication, BLE, Bluetooth low energy, and then which was first used in the iOS. So thanks to Apple, so which made it possible, because once it was adopted by the larger organization and small and medium organization which followed this trend, and then the significant the 50% of the IoT growth as set. And the keep on the trans receiver form factor is keep on people where the industries were focusing on, and then they minimized to the smallest possible size. And then last but not least is the protocol network, because if you see traditionally Wi-Fi protocol, it is designed for our desktop or laptop kind of environment, where the message headers were it's more than 20-30 bytes of even the header itself, and then which is difficult for a small trans receiver of this size. So that was resolved by the development of again, it's open this thing development, low pan, it's called IPv6 low power wireless personal area network, so which made possible the whole IoT scaling up to the what state today. And what are the key components, right? I mean, even we do use day to day our life. So many of these IoT based products, but what are the key components? So one is the sensor, right? So which basically it's a transducer we call, right? I mean, which converts anything, physical characteristics into a electrical pulse, electronic pulse, or we can say in the industrial world they call 4 to 20 milliamps. And then the actuators which executes, it's a same as a transducer, but it is does the reverse function of that. You apply the electrical signal and then it converts that into a physical form, physical changes. And then the third is the controller, microcontroller, which has all the processing part, and then the other memory aspects of storing those calculations and other logical information. And then the embedded program which runs on top of it, and then the network connectivity, and then last is how we built an application on using above all these components. So even today is the smart bulb most of us will be using at our home. So it will have the out layer, which is just housing, just to have protect the other components inside. So actuator is the LED, so which the final output which converts into a light energy. And then the sensor which takes, it could be a like a lidar kind of thing which senses the outside luminosity, and then it switch on the bulb. And then the microcontroller, which is known as like a nano Arduino board, or it could be a Raspberry as well, Raspberry Pi as well. And then the power supply part. And getting into each of these components, so let's start with sensor, and then the fundamental aspect of how these sensors all work. So even the sensors inbuilt in our mobile phones as well. So one is on the resistance based, and then conductance, and then third is on the inductance based. So just how the basic principle, the movement of this is for example, if you take an accelerometer, right? How we know to detect or how holding the mobile phone upright position, or we are having a flat surface we placed. So this is the fundamental accelerometer principle, which is a small specified weight of mass is attached to that, and then it measures the displacement of that weight based on due to gravitational aspect, and then the displacement can be measured. But in real life, because this particular if you start building this particular sensor for a large machinery, it will be occupy few centimeters, but it has to be inbuilt in the mobile kind of smaller form factor. Then it has to be series of play smaller resistance and then capacitance kind of environment. So where it can be continuously monitored, and then it should have fallback mechanism as well. So this is how it's current it's all built on our sensor in the mobile applications and mobile hardware part. And this group of sensors now it's called micro MEMS, they call micro electro mechanical sensors. And I just given some information on more on the theoretical aspects of that. So, and what are the key sensors which we will be using in the part of the Internet of Things is temperature, of course, temperature, pressure, and then the humidity. These are all mostly inbuilt for our this thing. And then if you get into the industrial environment, it's more of a vibration, and then the smoke detectors, which all inbuilt in the even the most of the corporate and other building environment. And then the infrared, which is used even for the smaller guided kind of environment. And then other few acceleration, that and all part of the it's inbuilt in any of these mobile devices. And how do we choose that sensors, right? So one is which end use case we are choosing, and then what is the type of we want to capture data, and then how frequently, because the frequency of the data, it makes a lot of difference, because how often you want, and then how reliable you want, and then how it has to be operating environment. If it has to be sensor, if you design for a industrial, and it should be more rugged kind of environment, it has to be designed such a way. And some of the critical infrastructure like oil and gas, we used to go for intrinsically safe devices. So the sensor has to should not create any spark or something, even in case of any incident. So it will be IP55 kind of thing. So it's what we call intrinsically safe devices for that specific environments. And then the power supply. So all this power supply is one of the key thing. And then because well, that is one of the thing revolutionized the IoT development, because now the sensors can take less than 1 microamps. Okay, that is a change. So it was traditionally it was 30 to 40 20 milliamps, and then it has brought down to less than 1 microamps. So that is a huge transformation which made IoT possible to the state today. And then the security aspects, and then the overall project cost when you choose for that. And then if you choose log, then it is like continuous supply of power, which is like our typically motor kind of use case where we can use. And then other sensors like on off kind of MCU, right? If you want to switch on or off in our home environment, so that is enabled by the MCU or the power control unit. So that is more on the digital part, and motor serves as the analog part. And even any flux, other kind of this thing, the actuators also can be used based on the specific use case. And this is a typical architecture of the microcontrollers which are used part of the IoT devices. So one is starting from the energy management. So today it is we call CR kind of batteries, the small button cell, what we call, which can be used to power up the entire controller for even couple of years, or even as high as 10 years also it can be so power up. And then they'll have auxiliary power of solar. And some of the remote workplaces like cross country pipelines which carries the petroleum products or the natural gas. So they all have the controllers or the monitoring instruments at a predefined level every few kilometers. So they all need to last for at least a couple of years. That particular remote unit has to work. So what we call remote terminal units to work. So, and then the memory aspect, it's not to the comparable to our mobile or desktop environment, but still it is made a huge thing. And then the receiver, which transmits and receives the signals. And then the other auxiliary are the microcontrollers, which will enable the actuators part, and then the wireless enablement. So these all made possible. And these are the key components. It is if you underline each of these controllers, if you get into detail. So these are the key components which are inbuilt in the small form factor. Just to give an idea of how complex the circuitry be below that each of these controllers. And some of the microcontrollers, probably in the next few minutes, we'll just showcase the Arduino. So this is one of the, and other is Raspberry Pi. You must have come across. So the main difference between the Arduino and Raspberry is, of course, the commercial aspect. So it should be more affordable, and it is good for educational purpose. And Raspberry is more of almost it is like a mini computer as well, so which has all the processing power, as well as it has enough storage power as well. So that is the main. And then Arduino will not have any associated memory for itself. And then the bottom picture, you can see the similar microcontroller which is built on Adafruit. So And on the left, this is some of the key points of about the microcontrollers and what is the various processing and other aspects. So and next is the embedded programs, which its embedded system is basically which is purpose built. Maybe the controllers, whatever we use, or the even desktop or laptop. So which are uh, built for general purpose. We can use for multiple different functions. But the embedded systems are created for a specific task or the specific purpose or business purpose to solve the specific business problem. So that is the main difference. For example, even starting from our smart bulb and then even the onboard units in our automobiles like cars and other vehicles, which is all we can say typical use case for embedded system, which are purpose built because we can't use for any other purpose for which it is designed. And then the power this thing requirements also it will vary, and then the drivers like slightly different. In the automobile field, if you see the Bosch is the company which manufactures most of this embedded system, which takes care of the ignition, starting from ignition and then until the emission part. And then what is the oxygen, the unburned or the unburnt, even the carbon and the other things can be monitored in real time. And even the engine temperature and a few other aspects of, and then the health of the autonomous automobiles. So they all now captured part of the onboard unit. So similar microcontroller you will see a lot when you enter into any specific industry. And coming to the gateway, so gateway is one of the key areas. So because earlier it was started, if you see in the industrial world, the communication started with RS-232, you must have known. So even today, some of the industry still they are stuck with that, and then RS-232, RS-485 kind of communications, which need to be yeah, converted into TCP/IP kind of protocols. So then some of the controllers gateways they have been using, so, which I used is Moxa. It's a Taiwan-based company. So Moxa converts basically, each of the ports you can configure, whether it is RS-232 to TCP/IP or RS-485, or it could be Modbus kind of industrial protocols which they use. And again, different type of communications, whether it's solicited or unsolicited type of communications. So which all can be converted into a TCP/IP protocol, which is made a huge difference in the industrial world. The similar thing it's happening in the IoT world as well, both in industrial IoT as well as the IoT world per se. So which made multiple different protocols and multiple different machines which talk in different protocols, which all can be brought to a common platform. So which tomorrow, day after tomorrow, we'll see some of the during the protocols, how the communication protocols and which are the more frequently or more popular in terms of the protocols. One is MQTT, and then the second thing is OPC UA, so Open Process Automation. So that is two are the key standard forms of protocols which is used currently in the industry. Of course, others also there, but to a very limited extent. And then probably they will all give away to the MQTT or to the OPC UA kind of protocols. And the gateway is the main transformation happened is in terms of the security. Port level and then even the transport layer. And all level we can enable the security, which is key aspects of communication. And then if you see in the industrial environment, it's all now it's a more mesh network because we can't afford to lose any drop in communication, so or the messages. So they all formed in the mesh network, and then it will have redundancy to the at least a double, dual redundancy or triple modular redundancy kind of environment they exist in the industry. And then even the some of the non-critical aspects of monitoring the industry like monitoring the corrosion aspect of a particular industry. They all are now enabled using IoT. It's an, I would say, the next layer than the traditional process control layer, which is still it is on the typically wired environment. So of course the new developments all happen with wireless. So now maybe we can take a couple of minutes and then I'll just get into the demonstration of the microcontroller. So using Arduino board, and then I'll show the even the simulated part of the Arduino board as well. Yeah. Hope are you able to see my this thing, the browser?
Yes, yes. Clear, yes.
Yeah, sure. So I'm just going to show this is Arduino Uno board. So it is one of the versions of Arduino, which is predominantly used, roughly around 300 rupees in price, and then you can use, and then you can do it yourself, kind of kit. So to connect this particular Arduino controller to a laptop or desktop. So all we need is there are two ways we can install the additional application we can download from the. It's a being Arduino is a open source, so you can register yourself and you can download and then you can connect, and that is like a inbuilt, or I mean you can install in your machine and then you can work on. It's tied to your the hardware. And second thing is more on the web editor. So you can use the web editor as well. So you need not install any specific application. So the good thing is any new drivers and other libraries, because we each device are the OEMs, right? Original equipment manufacturers. They keep publishing so many libraries and updates to their particular product and then associated embedded programs. So if you have a web editor, then it is much more easier to maintain those versions. So and then it makes life easier. So I'll just show you the web editor. So these are the this is a typical web editor environment where if you see on the left, Sketch. So Sketch is the IDE, right? Integrated Development Environment for this Arduino, and then you can create a simple programs and then make it. And then a few examples are available in the sketchbook, and then you can choose start with a simpler one, and then you can establish much more complex use cases. And then a few of the libraries which we use based on the type of controller you use, and then the sensor, and then the actuators what you use, you have to update those. And then monitor, it's called serial monitor. So this is for monitoring the communication. So especially if you connect any actuators, so then it will be critical. So to monitor what's happening. And then the preference. So this is what to enable other the user personalization point of view. So first thing is when the moment you connect, so you need to have USB 2 version, and then you have to connect on the power up, and then you have power up option. You have a couple of options. So one is you can have USB cable, and then you can connect to a, it's a again Arduino it needs 5 volts only. So you need to use even our normal mobile adapter, which Samsung or other can be used. And the other option is you can have the the power supply 5 volts, right? 2 to 35 step down. You can use the other power supply as well. So, and then you need to connect, and then the USB port, and then I just took the simpler example. So first thing you need to do is choose the particular board which you are currently connecting to the laptop or desktop, and then the port. So it is basically still they for the nomenclature wise they still use the COM environment, so they still have the name COM, but it is nothing to do with the COM port, right? So based on the USB how it is configured, so it will show the name of the COM port. So in my case, it was COM5. So, and then once this is a core program where we use. So I just take the simplest program. So it's a blink program. So commands part, we can leave it. Yeah. So the first component is setup. So this is the kind of we are defining our functions or any typical programming part, and then just the declaration part. So I just took the program pin mode. So pin is nothing but, so if you see the overall thing, so on the bottom layer, so there are some analog inputs. So it starts with the designated A, name with A. It's all analog inputs, and then the power supply. So either you can because being a 5 volts, you can't run like a motors, multiple motors and other environment. But the bottom one where you use A1 to 8, you use the analog inputs. It could be a flux sensors or other aspects. And then the top one you see it's all the digital outputs, right? So that's where you connect all your whether it is a simple use case like LED and other outcomes, or even powering up a motor or sending a communication signal to a motor, DC motor. So once you connect the particular for current use case, I'll just use the LED which is inbuilt in the Arduino board itself. Okay, it's called built-in. So that's why the name suggests LED built-in. So and then the next is the loop part. So this is where the main program which starts, and so digital write is sending output this to a particular the D the pins designated as D, D1 to D13, and then D0 to D13. So you can, and then high is the which is the powering up or the maximum um, input, and then there is a delay which is given in milliseconds, and then same way I just change the switching on or off the particular LED. So this is the simplest use case, and then what we need to is once you write the program, and then you just need to just to validate, or they call verify, and then just compile it, and then send it to the particular board. And then because currently my board is in a corporate laptop, so I can't connect my, so I have programmed in my personal laptop, and then I just programs. So once you change it, and then you can see that the LED which is on the left of yours, so that will blink. So based on the type of how many milliseconds we kept the delay. So this is the simplest use case, and then probably you can try yourself, other use cases as well. I'll share. I have done a couple of things on based on the motor and other things, and then want to show other aspects. So if you want to control any device which is more than 5 volts, then you may have to use different type of seals, right? It is like auxiliary boards we need to use. So the one I'm showing is called motor shield. So this is I used to control two DC motors. The power supply is from if you see in the bottom one, so 12 volts or 9 volts I can supply, and then there are jumpers inside. You can change it to whether it's 9 volts or 12 volts, based on the power requirement. And then this particular the bottom 4 pins you can see, this is for sending communications to the motors, as well as that's for the controlling aspects, and then the pulse input to the motors. So this is like this. This is for controlling the motor. It's called motor shield. There are other shields also available based on your application. So based on the mainly the power consumption of the end device you want to actuate, right? So that makes a lot of difference. So I'll share the program which I made, and probably I'll share the photographs of this motor shields. So if you want to implement the use case, you can. It's not really tough. Just you can follow the steps, and then you can configure yourself. You can control a couple of 2 motors, right? Kind of typical line follower kind of thing. You can use this motor shield along with the Arduino Uno board. And other auxiliary board which is of importance is this is ESP8266. I think some of you must have already come across. So this is the main thing which powering up all our smart homes. It's called ESP8266. This is a Wi-Fi board, and it can access like an access point itself, right? It can directly talk to our router at home, and then we can connect it, and then it has backside it has 8 pins, so which will help us to communicate to the particular so good thing is the form factor. It's so compact, and then it can be inbuilt on like our smart bulb, or it could be built on our existing switchboard itself in our power up. And then all you need is one more MCU. There's a small powering on device which converts this 5 volts to a to power up 230 volts, right? So we need to, it's basically a relay you need to connect with this ESP8266 board, and you can control any of this our home appliances. But again, of course, you have to only on off kind of nature for the relays. And only thing you need to take care for the ESP8266, you need to use only 3 volts, right? Only 3 volts you need to supply. So that is the one thing makes challenging, but it can be. But if you want to go off the shelf, you can buy a product called Sonoff. I'll share you, which comes the small compact inbuilt relay plus this ESP8266, which you can use it to control any of your home appliances, and then which can be built on top of that Sonoff. The Wi-Fi switch can be built on top of your existing switchboard at home, and then you can control and even the application part is available. So you have to download. All you have to do is download a application called EV Chat, EV Link, and then it can directly talk to that particular Sonoff Wi-Fi switch, and then it is all set. So within a couple of minutes, you can enable any of your home appliance with your Wi-Fi, and later it can be extended if you have Alexa also at home, and then all you need to is just link that particular Sonoff kind of Wi-Fi switch to the Alexa environment. So that's all done. So you can even voice enable all your home appliance with minimal no coding, right? And then directly you can enable with a few clicks, right? You can enable that. Even voice enable all your home appliances. And some of them, other than this, is other boards you may need. Is this a small power supply board along with the breadboard? So this will take care of like 5 volts or 3 volts for ESP kind of any use cases you want to do some demos. So you need to buy a small power supply unit, 5 or 3 volts power supply with along the power board. So this will save your time and then protect your circuitry from any over voltage or other impact. And typically this is the sensor, sorry, the motor, which will have gear assembly as well. So this is a DC motors which you can use for along with the motor shield to control this any smaller use case. Right? And then if you want to try any gesture based programs, right? You must have seen some of the use cases where people wearing gloves, right? And then so this is a flux sensor. So hope you will able to see. So this is the flux sensor. So the resistance will change based on the moment you bend this flux sensor. So this is what we in the gloves, you can embed this flux sensors in the gloves, and then moment you flux your fingers, and then the resistance will change. So all you need to do connect this with the Arduino board in the analog signal part. So the moment you send the flux sensors in analog, then you will get no difference in resistance that can be used to drive the end. Either it could be a servo motor or any other device which you want to control based on the gesture. So the flux sensor is one the sensor you can use for any gesture based applications. So now most of you must have seen with now it is a challenge to get in this current situation getting or getting the Arduino board and other things. So some of the companies, they have come out with the visual version or the simulated version of it, right? So I'm just switching to a application called Tinkerboard. I hope a few of you already have registered, and then so I just take a smaller use case. So you can try, I mean, all of you can try in with your laptop itself. So the same exercise, right, we have created. So once you have registered, and then choose on the left circuits and go to the create new circuit. And then you can start with this is IDE, and then
Yeah,
on the
sorry to
left.
interrupt. Just
Please. Yeah. Able to,
we give them few minutes just
yeah,
to
sure.
get this ready. I'm not sure how many
Sure,
of them
yeah.
have registered.
Yeah, Preeta, yeah, please.
Yeah, we request the participants to quickly take 2-3 minutes. Those of you who have a laptop at your end, and if you would like to try with them, please take quick 2 minutes now to set it up. Any one of you who's doing the registration now can just confirm and let us know that you are done, so that no, he can continue with it.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes.
Should we be creating a personal account or a student's account, ma'am? Like it's asking for join a class.
You can have personal,
Okay, sir. Is it free, sir? Like
yeah, it's a free tool. Yeah, it's a free tool. So
Sir, I think I have tried it before, but
yeah.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. So on the right side, you can, there's a palette, right? The panel. So where you can choose various, the sensors and actuators, as well as the Arduino board version. So currently I chosen Arduino Uno version R3, right? And just place it on the environment, and then you can give any name if you want, and then this is the code. That's where the code. So code again, there are much simpler version now, because it will give you graphical kind of use in the IDE, right? So which makes very easy to code, right? And then similar to, I don't know, any of you used Lego Ties? So they have a version called Mindstorm, which has similar graphical oriented programming environment, right? So this is like a graphical, but of course still you can use traditional sketch as well. And then the moment you power up, and then you can just start the simulation. So then it will power up by itself, and then it will start the simulation, right? You can see that there is a small LED which I was showing in the hardware itself few minutes back. The same thing is enabled here, right? And then you can change any of them, and then you can build on top of it. We can add some components to that. So let us add simplest one. So I'll add an LED, right? So I leave it the color name to row 1, and then red, it's fine. And then to connect, I'm just going to connect, and then LED being very low power device, so you need to have a small resistor. Better to have the resistor along with that. So I'm connecting one resistor, and then connect the ground, and then I'm just powering up with the pin number output 13. So then code environment you can see. So now we have only built-in, and then I'll have I'll change the pin to 13, so which is what we have just incorporated. This is existing one is built-in pin, so I'm just using the one 13 and high, right? And then if you want, I can have I can duplicate the block as well. So you can delete it, and then I just change the, you can change the wait time. So I just keep 5 for the new pin. I'm just keeping it. So now we have powered up one, and then I can just roll back the palette, and then I can start. Yeah, now you can see the lamp is, the LED is glowing. So we can programmatically, we can modify that. So I can change the color, right? And the other things you can choose yourself. So right. So like this, you can try out yourself. Few of the sample controllers also there, boards also there, right? Circuit assemblies are existing also there. You can try yourself. It's much more easier, and then no need to worry about hardware, getting hardware, and then wiring a few things. And practice yourself with this simulator. It will give a fair idea about how these controllers work, and then once you are comfortable, and then you can order one similar controller, and then you can try it yourself, and then try various use cases. So it's cool to try different use cases. Probably some of your projects you can try out in this with the hardware, and then various flux sensors. Now it's really affordable. The whole the controllers, sensors, and other accessories. Really, no. So I myself tried connecting the speakers to this, and then connecting controlling couple of DC motors, kind of line follows kind of use cases, and even the light sensor, right? So you can try with this some motors, DC motors, and then there's a servo use case as well. So this is what used for your if any of you interested in doing gesture based controllers, so all you need to use is the microcontroller as well, and then you need to have there are 3 ports. One is for the ground to this one, power supply 5 volts, and then you can connect. So and then there's one power up, and then there is one. So we need to keep connecting the pulse input. So the PWM stands for pulse width modulation, because no, create analog kind of thing. So it will not have any provision. So it is a slightly modified version of the signal. It's called pulse width modulation, which can help you to give continuous signal. So for motors, we need to use one of these pins, right? So 5, 6, 7, or 8, then you have to use this and then power up. So then it will control. I think there is a use case. There is a existing controllers built on that as well. So yeah, this one, yeah. So this is the one use case you can try with their real components. So based on the flux sensor changes, so this can be tied to a string or something, and then it will eventually help you to connect it. Yeah, I think with this I'll stop today's session, and then I'd like to take upon any questions you have so far. It will be good. Yeah, you can post it, or you can type it in your this thing chat window, and then I will take up.
We request you all to raise any questions that you have. You can unmute and speak, or please type on the chat window.
Simulator, which simulator I'm using? I'm using the Tinkercad. So there are other simulators. Some of them are paid ones. This one is I used the from AutoCAD. So could you please explain industrial automation? So industrial automation is nothing but how we control the mechanical assembly kind of industry, or even energy, right? Oil and gas, or power and utilities. So you can use that.
This recording will be shared. It will be emailed to you all end of every day. The session recording will be done.
Yes, code section, you can write the sketch which I was showing in the Arduino web editor. So similar thing also you can write yourself. Coding also allowed. So you can type yourself the code. Yeah. in the same Tinkercad environment, you can type your code. So the sketch program you can download from other any example, and then you can still use in this.
Any other questions? Please type or unmute and speak. Okay, meanwhile, just a quick update from my end. So we will be sharing the feedback link. I've already posted it in the chat window. So end of every session on every day, this feedback link will be shared. It's mandated that all those who have joined the meeting have to fill this feedback. It's a very simple questionnaire you can quickly fill. We will be using this response to track your attendance as well. So we want to track the attendance across all 4 days, and then your final certificate will be issued based on this. After successful completion of all 4 days, e-certificates will be issued. So before you leave the call, we request all of you to update this. I've shared the feedback link right on the chat window. So kindly submit your responses. Yeah, over to questions. Anyone wants to clarify anything? Please raise your questions.
Ma'am, can you send the feedback link again?
Yeah, I've posted it. Okay, I'll share that again.
Share in the WhatsApp group or something, ma'am.
No,
Here
we'll share it
it's-
here. This is for people who have already joined the meeting. So we have the WhatsApp group for a big group of registered team. So only for those who have joined today, we want to get the feedback. So I posted it again here. Are you able to access? You should be able to access the form. Please submit your feedback. But before that, if you all have any questions, let's close. Raise your questions. Anything else? We have.
Okay, ma'am. I got the link. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yeah, one question from Sanjay. So the difference between cloud and gateway. See, cloud is again the infrastructure, right? Where we store and then process and then do other aspects of the application part of it. So gateway is more from the channelizing the communication between the sensor to the controller to the the storage infrastructure. So that is the main difference. So gateway also it helps in converting various communication protocols from one form to another. That is the main purpose of gateways. And also gateways will help us to aggregate, right? I mean, for example, if you have a say building, right? I have 10 rooms, and each room I want to monitor or control the lighting and temperature, or the ambient or the air conditioner of air conditioning effect of particular room. So if I start communicating for all individual 10 rooms, if I start sending signals, right, it will overload the entire infrastructure, right? So the best thing is to have one gateway for the particular logical group of controllers, and which will help to minimize the to and fro communication between where we store this data, or we want to process or to take some action. So that way it helps to minimize that. So gateway will minimize the communication to and fro between the cloud or the storage environment, the processing environment. And current the development in the edge computing. So gateway also can have certain processing power. So where even now we have some of the industrial use case where even simple computing and can be implemented, so which you need not go to the central processing unit or the central cloud environment for assessment. So it can control. Even we have current use cases where AI, artificial intelligence and machine learning models can also be incorporated. Like for example, if you see Amazon AWS, they have a device called HoloLens, right? It's basically built on a GPU based processor. So you can load some of the models for visual, recognition, right? So, or what we call the visual computations. So, our computer vision based use cases. So you can build and then you can use like an intruder or strangers coming to your home. So if you have a HoloLens kind of device with the edge computing, so you need not even connect to your cloud or anywhere to process it. So anything other than people residing at home, so it will say it will immediately detect a stranger has come, and then it can alert. So gateway now it is becoming even edge computing device as well. So So on the software, no need to install anything. Probably if you use Arduino board, then Arduino, go to the create part of Arduino environment and then web editor. So when you try to connect the actual hardware to your laptop, it will ask you to install a smaller, lightweight, some 4 or 5 MB of agent, which will establish the communication with the Arduino board. Other than that, I don't think you need to install any applications. Yeah, so no need to install anything. So
Okay, we are almost towards the end. I think we can close with this. Any other quick questions, anyone, before we close? Thank you very much. It was a very, very informative session. So I'm sure, in fact, today we have a mixed group. We have students, we have
Okay.
research scholars, and we
Good.
also have some faculty members. And being an online meeting, taking advantage of this pandemic, it's like, a mixed group from all over. We have people both from South Indian and North Indian institutions, West,
Okay.
East. It's all a mixed crowd. So we had close to 100 plus people who wanted to participate, but looks like some people were not able to join today. So we landed up with 60, 70 people joining today. So I'm sure they all would have been benefited. It was a very clear presentation and it was very informative. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. Have a good day. Bye.
Thank you. Request the participants to fill this. Please fill the feedback form. The workshop will continue tomorrow, the same time. It will be 10 to 11:30 on all 4 days. Form link is posted in the chat window. Request you all to, even before you leave the call, then and there, please try to submit. Thank you one and all for joining us today. Thank you. Yes. Those who have filled the form, yes, you can please leave the call. Look forward to see you all tomorrow, same time, 10 to 11:30. Thank you. So I'm posting again the feedback form. It will ask for your email ID. You can give the same ID which you have used during your registration for better tracking for us. I've posted the feedback link once again for those who have missed it earlier. Take just 1 or 2 minutes to fill in the feedback. Feedback once more, yes, posted. Those of you who have submitted the feedback for the day, I can leave the call. Thank you so much for joining us. Sorry, the entire session has been recorded. So to answer to Gajendra Singh questions, whatever you have posted here, it will be shared. So we'll email to all of you who have participated today. So I even got a query for some of them, like, like they have missed the initial part of the session. So we would be sending it around 5 or 6 p.m. today, so that if you want to catch up on something with it before the next session tomorrow, you can still do it. Recording will be emailed. Okay, I would be leaving the call soon. I'm still waiting for a few people who are there on the call to know if you need something or if you are done with the feedback. If you're done, you can please leave the call. Thank you so much for joining us.